freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of episode 134 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearms.com, your nationwide hometown gun shop. Well, today our theme is, how do you vote? Many of us are single-issue voters, the Second Amendment, period. And here's why. The stance a politician takes concerning the Second Amendment is more revealing than they would like to think. Wrapped up in one issue are that politician's attitude toward my civil rights, personal rights, human rights, women's rights, and the rights of their minority and lower socioeconomic constituents. You see, those who are anti-gun are also anti-civil, anti-human, anti-personal, anti-women, and anti-minority rights. We call them what they are, the rights restrictors. They ask for my vote to expand their power, and at the same time, they want to limit my liberty and freedom. So while we're considering our votes at every level of government, we have lots of issues to weigh out. But for me, I will always support the people who support our Bill of Rights and protect our Second Amendment, and invite you to consider doing the same in how you vote. All right, well, our next guest is Dan Wos, author of Good Gun, Bad Guy, Behind the Lies of the Anti-Gun Radical. This is the book that destroys the anti-gun left and exposes all of their lies and propaganda. And recently he published a second book titled Destroying the Anti-Gun Narrative. Lately, Dan has been helping us to decipher the language used by the rights restrictors and activist journalists and the things that we hear and see in the media. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hey, Cheryl and Dan. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. So help us unpack what I'm talking about here. Help us unpack some of the language. Is it all very blatant, or is it more subtle, or a combination of both?
No, a lot of it's very subtle, actually, and you don't even really notice it, but it does affect the way people think about guns. Like, they'll say things like, well, what do you need a gun for? Nobody needs an AR-15.
Mm-hmm.
And they use this word need as if it was the Bill of Needs. And it's the Bill of Rights. They don't, either they understand or they don't understand, but it doesn't matter, because the way they use that word, see, I think most anti-gunners understand that the Second Amendment is a right. They don't want it to be, but they understand that it is. They would much rather it be, your gun ownership be measured by some metric of need. So they'll use that term all the time. Nobody needs a gun. And if it was measured by some level of need, it would be easier to restrict, because now someone else would determine whether or not you, Cheryl Todd, need a gun. So now you'd have some bureaucrat deciding whether or not you need a gun. So I think it works a lot, almost like the way they've implemented political correctness, where they know freedom of speech is a right, but they found a way around it. It's called political correctness. So same with gun ownership. They know it's a right, but they try to find their way around it with this notion of need.
It's so true. And there's a shaminess. Not even sure that's a word, but it is now. A shaminess to a lot of the rhetoric that comes out of these activist journalists and the rights restrictors. They'll say things like, surely we can all agree on some common sense gun laws. And so the implication there is that if you don't agree, you have no common sense, right? And it's just all very, very shame-based.
Yeah, because, I mean, let's face it, none of us want to be perceived as not having common sense. So even though the statement common sense gun restrictions really doesn't make any sense, it's out there, and people will look at it like, oh, well, geez, I don't want to be labeled, nonsensical, so I'm just going to go along. That's the idea. They expect people to just kind of go along with. This is why Hillary Clinton called half of Trump supporters deplorable, because she thought that by labeling half of them deplorable, they would not want to be considered deplorable and go to the left and vote for her. You see, you're right. You're absolutely right about the shaming. It's a shaming. It's categorizing. It's all about, for the Democrats, it's all about sitting at the popular table. Until now, they had the popular table, but since Donald Trump came in, he kind of kicked them out of the popular table and sent them to the mop closet. But until then, they had the popular table. So if you wanted to sit at the popular table, you had to eat from that menu. And if most of the people who wanted to sit at the Democrat popular table, they didn't want to be ridiculed. They didn't want to be called names. That was the worst thing to them. Well, Hillary Clinton tried using that same Democrat strategy on conservatives by calling them deplorable, hoping that they would come to her side. They didn't, because conservatives don't need to sit at the popular table. As a matter of fact, most conservatives want nothing to do with that popular table.
Amen. So true. Well, we are conservative. The name fits us, right? We're fairly independent-minded. We kind of keep our opinions close to the vest, and we aren't the ones that are out there making our neighbors have to walk in lockstep with us. And I think that was a huge miscalculation on the part of Hillary Clinton, and I think that they're making huge miscalculations on that whole side that wants to use the shaming tactics, to use this language that tries to constantly force the rest of us to get in line with them, because it turns us off. We don't associate with it. I can still remember, the little rhyme, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. So yeah, your shamingness has nothing to do with me and has everything to do with you, the person that's doing the shaming, and your small-minded opinion that you think you know everything that's best for me and my family.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But the interesting thing is that people on the left typically are affected by that kind of shaming. They do. That does affect them. But that's the difference. I always look at it like conservatives and liberals. They're different because of the way we think, And I always found that liberals, they don't want to be condemned like that. It's important to them that they're accepted by their peers and that they're held with, to high standards or whatever. So you can call a liberal a name like Donald Trump does, and
he does make it work. I'm always so shocked by that he'll come up with something. It's kind of a goofy sounding name, and somehow it really sticks. And it's like, oh, I feel so bad for the other side that they wither and fold in on themselves because he came up with a funny little nickname. But this whole idea of people that have to have like a whole group around them and all of this, we all agree, and we have the head bob and the lockstep going on. Yes, we all agree, master.
Right.
And then we have the conservatives who are very independent-minded, but then you bring together a group of conservative-minded, independent-minded people to an event like the Gun Rights Policy Conference that you and I were just at recently in Chicago, and the AMCON, which is the Alternative Mass Media Conference. And what what did you see while you were there? Are we really the stereotype? Are we all a bunch of bearded 50-year-old camo wearing dudes?
Oh, geez. No, that's the funny thing about it is there are people from all walks of life at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. I was actually, I was pleasantly surprised, even to see, liberal gun owners.
Yes.
A couple of people were, liberal progressives, but they support gun rights and they own guns. So, and then you had everybody from every race and ethnicity, every age group,
yep,
and every class financial class.
Yep.
Just fantastic, and typically, getting conservatives together is like herding kittens, but when it comes to something like this, everybody was there, and they knew why they were there, and when it comes to important issues and important topics and defending our right to keep and bear arms, conservatives and gun owners will come out when necessary.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, we're about out of time, but I want folks to know how they can follow the work you do, because when you put out these videos where you basically stop the tape and then you say, okay, here's what this news personality, right, this pundit, really just said. Or here's what the body language is telling us in this particular scene. It's brilliant. It's so important. I want people to know how they can follow that, how they can get a hold of your books, and whether or not you've got another book in the wings.
Well, okay, the last question first. Yes, there is. I just don't know when it's going to be out. I'm not rushing it, taking my time. It could be another year. It could be 2 years. Who knows? But there will be another one at some point. And as far as seeing some of those videos that you just talked about, analyzing the pundits, dissecting the fake news with a narrative. I've done a couple of those, and you can get those at the Good Gun Bad Guy YouTube page. And then you can also buy the book Good Gun Bad Guy or Good Gun Bad Guy 2 at goodgunbadguy.net. or go on Amazon. So there's plenty of ways. All you got to do is throw a Good Gun Bad Guy into Bing or DuckDuckGo or your favorite search engine.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all the work you do. Please continue going out there and helping us to, have sort of a linguistic guide to what is going on out there. And just again, thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you, and hats off to you guys. You're really putting up. You're really supporting gun owners as well, and you're doing a fantastic job.
Appreciate it so much. Appreciate you, Dan.
Thank you. Talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Stick around.
If you want more interviews by me, click one of the videos on the right. And remember, your Second Amendment, it's not a privilege. It's your right.